My name is Sasha Forson. I'm the Assistant Director of Nebraska, and I would like to welcome you today to the Mentorship Blueprint, a presentation by Paula Caldwell of UNL's College of Business Center. Today's event is hosted by Nebraska Women in STEM, an initiative led by Nebraska Cures and BioNebraska. The collaboration is driven by a mission to reduce barriers for women in STEM and to create an environment in Nebraska where they can flourish and thrive in their chosen careers. The contributions of women in STEM are more crucial than ever, and we recognize that the true potential of Nebraska's STEM industry can only be realized when it embraces the diverse perspectives and talents of all of its participants. Today, we are excited to connect with you all and to shine a spotlight on the important role that mentorship plays in the journey of women in STEM. I will now pass things off to my Nebraska Women in STEM colleague and Executive Director of Nebraska Cures, Amanda McGill-Johnson.
Thank you, Sasha. Hi, I'm Amanda. Mentorship is one of the topics that has come up frequently whenever we talk to women in STEM. So we put together today's presentation so that we can all learn more about the various types of mentorship, because there are many, the benefits to the mentor and the mentee, and also how we can get the most out of those mentoring experiences. As Sasha mentioned, our presenter today is Paula Caldwell. She's the Associate Director of Career and Professional Development with the College of Business Career Center at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. With nearly 10 years of experience in higher education, she's dedicated much of her career to mentorship and the development of emerging talent. If any of you who are watching this live have questions for Paula, please put them in the Q&A and we will get to them at the appropriate time. And with that, I'll hand it over to Paula. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all so much for being here. Give me just a moment to get my screen share, and then we will dive in. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Mentorship Blueprint, a comprehensive guide to success. My hope in this webinar is to provide a high-level overview of mentorship, providing context for both mentors and mentees alike to help you excel as you embark on your own mentoring journey, whatever that might look like for you. As both Amanda and Sasha mentioned, my name is Paula Caldwell, and I serve as the Associate Director with the College of Business Career Center at UNL. In that role, I work with undergraduate and graduate business students, as well as alumni, to help them envision and take action on their career goals. Mentoring plays a huge role in the success of students and professionals at all stages of their career development. So I'm really excited to be facilitating this conversation for you all. Over the next hour, we're going to be covering a lot of different information, starting with what is mentoring. Here we'll explore the origins, the definitions, and the essential components of what a mentoring relationship should include. From there, we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of mentoring, examining how mentoring impacts both the mentor and the mentee personally and professionally. Then we'll explore a little bit about the different types of mentoring. There are many different types of mentoring that exist, and it's really important to explore which might best suit your needs or the needs of your organization. We'll discuss the roles and the structure within mentoring relationships. So what each party should bring to the table in a mentoring relationship, as well as the different stages that you might go through in that relationship. And then we'll very briefly talk about some of the challenges that might emerge throughout mentoring relationships and how to overcome them before getting into some best practices, reviewing some key takeaways to remember as you embark on your own journey. To kick things off, the term mentor was originated when Homer wrote the Odyssey. King Odysseus asked his friend and advisor, who was named Mentor, hence the name, to watch over and provide guidance to his son, Telemachus. While the mentoring relationship has evolved over the last 3,000 years, its essence really has remained the same. Now we would define mentoring as that supportive and developmental relationship in which an experienced person, the mentor, provides guidance, advice, and knowledge to someone who has a little bit less experience, the mentee. In the long run, the mentor assists in developing skills, self-awareness, and knowledge to enhance that mentee's personal and professional growth. It's important to remember that mentorship should be a mutually beneficial relationship that's both based on personal and professional development for the mentor and the mentee. A strong mentoring relationship provides the opportunity for participants to reflect on their experiences, make informed decisions, and take action. To accomplish this goal, mentors need to do 3 core things for their mentees. The first is to motivate. A mentor's role is to motivate their mentee to reach their full potential. They need to be providing positive encouragement, support, and helping them stay focused towards their career goals. This motivation can really fuel a mentee's ambition and commitment, leading to increased self-confidence and a sense of purpose. Secondly, mentors have to inspire. Mentors inspire their mentees when they share their own experiences, the achievements they've had, and the challenges that they've faced and the lessons they've learned from those. By sharing these stories, mentors help their mentees envision what's possible for their life and aspire to greatness. This inspiration really does serve as a catalyst for mentees to aim higher and explore new opportunities for growth. And finally, mentors need to challenge. A mentor plays a really crucial role in challenging a mentee's assumptions, biases, or self-limiting beliefs. With asking powerful questions that challenge these assumptions and mental models, mentors are able to foster curiosity and innovation within their mentee. One question that I hear a lot when thinking about mentoring is, how do mentoring and coaching differ from one another? Mentoring is really a relationship-based approach where the mentor acts as a trusted advisor, sharing their knowledge and expertise to help the mentee navigate their professional development. Mentoring focuses on that guidance and encouragement and advice that's being provided, with the mentor really drawing from their own experience in order to lend a helping hand. Oftentimes, these relationships are much more long-term and relatively informal, though there may be some structure involved. This allows for ongoing support and development to really meet the needs of both parties involved. Alternatively, coaching is really a much more goal-oriented approach that focuses on enhancing performance or specific skills. In both relationships, there are going to be those thought-provoking questions that are asked, but here the coach is very focused on helping their coachee find their own solutions. They're not in that relationship to provide direct advice, but really to help their coachee find that solution themselves through asking those questions. These relationships are much more short-term or project-based, with the focus on driving results and progress toward a specific goal. While they do share very similar goals, they differ in terms of the relationship, the dynamics, the structure, and the expertise that's being shared. Though, do know that there may be some overlap depending on how your personal mentoring relationship is formulated here. Mentoring offers a number of benefits for its participants. Through participating in mentoring, those in the mentee role are able to develop skills and knowledge in a hands-on manner. Oftentimes, mentees are facing challenges in their own career, and they may be asking for advice. Their mentor gives advice and guidance based on their own experiences that the mentee can then take back and test out to see how it works. They're also able to ask for advice or exposure to certain skills that maybe they don't have the opportunity to develop in their own organization or career. Mentees also have the opportunity to present ideas and receive honest feedback. A mentoring relationship can be a great way to brainstorm opportunities and ideas and really flesh out those thoughts before bringing them forward to a larger group, and knowing that you're going to be getting critical, constructive feedback that's presented in a way that's very caring. Mentoring also allows the mentee to expand their network of professionals. Mentoring provides that opportunity not only to build a one-on-one connection with the mentor, but also build connections with that mentor's personal connection. Figuring out, I don't have the answer to this question, someone else would be able to assist you. Let me make that introduction. And so continuing to broaden and expand that network from there. Mentees also develop greater self-awareness and a greater understanding as they work toward their professional goals. As they're talking about their experiences, by nature, they're reflecting on their strengths, their weaknesses, where they can grow as a professional, and then setting goals to help accomplish exactly that. And oftentimes in mentorship relationships, we see mentees have increased productivity and confidence. Because they're being given advice and strategies that can help them excel, they're able to put those into practice a little bit more, which comes to play in the workplace as well. Additionally, mentors also receive a number of benefits. This is something that's often overlooked, but something that's really important to consider. Our mentors also increase their communication and leadership skills. By sharing that advice, by being viewed as a mentor, they are by nature leading others. And so effectively communicating and sharing their story is really important here. Mentors also have that opportunity to share their personal experiences, which increases their own confidence. Oftentimes, particularly as women, we don't necessarily give ourselves credit for the things that we're doing that are really, really awesome. And so by having a mentee who's looking up to you and asking you insightful questions about your own journey, you might have some memory spark of, oh yeah, I did this project and I really accomplished a lot through that. And it can just be a great way for you to build your own confidence as a mentor. There's also an opportunity by serving in a mentoring role for you to develop, recruit, and retain talent for your own organization, potentially. The better the interactions that you have with students, new professionals, current professionals, they are more likely to want to join or stay with your organization if they feel like they are valued and that the people in that organization care about them. So this is a great benefit to serving as a mentor. There's also that ability to create your own legacy. By contributing to the growth of others, if you are very passionate about creating a legacy or feeling like you made an impact on others, this allows you to do that. And then for some mentors, there's that ability to reignite passion and enthusiasm. For those of us who have maybe been in careers for a while, this gives you a new challenge and an ability to think through what could be something different that we do. We'll get into a type of mentorship a little bit later called reverse mentoring that allows for that opportunity for the mentee to bring some fresh ideas to the table. And so this can be a really cool way for you to create innovation within your own organization and work. Mentorship comes in a variety of forms. Generally, when you hear about mentoring relationships, people are usually talking about either a formal mentoring program or an informal mentoring relationship. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about each of these in a moment, but there are a few additional forms of mentoring that you may choose to participate in that I want to introduce you to. These include reverse mentoring, flash mentoring, peer mentoring, e-mentoring, group, and team mentoring. While this is not an all-inclusive list of mentoring relationships, there's many, many more out there. They are some of the most common forms. So we'll talk about each of these a little bit more. First, formal mentoring. Formal mentoring is a really structured form of mentoring that's formed by an organization for a specific purpose. It could be formed by a university to help their students gain exposure to different careers within an industry, or by an organization itself to help aid in the onboarding and training process of new hires, or just helping current employees feel valued and feel like they have an opportunity for growth and development. In formal mentoring programs, Mentors and mentees are strategically paired with one another based on an outline criteria that's set up by centralized administration. This relationship is also very structured with specific goals that they are hoping for their mentor and mentee pairings to obtain. Because it is centrally administered, there's the ability for both mentors and mentees to go through some type of formalized training to better understand what their roles entail and what the expectations are for those relationships. There's often a really defined structure here with regular meetings and a specified program length, though mentorship relationships can extend beyond that. There's not an expectation for it to continue beyond that specified end date. And then usually in these formalized programs, there are specific outcomes that people are hoping to obtain. So whether that's setting goals at the onset of the relationship and having that continue forward, or having the very intentional goal of this is what everyone who participates in a mentoring relationship in our organization should obtain. There's usually some way that administration is measuring that. Alternatively, informal mentoring has a much more fluid structure. Rather than being matched by someone, these mentoring pairings are found organically, and it's really loosely structured with flexible meetings and no true set duration. Usually in these relationships, you still want to outline what your ideal duration is, so expectations are clear, but it does not have to be the same for every informal mentoring relationship that may exist. Because there's no formalized program here, there's really no formal training either. So one of the hard things in informal relationships that just naturally come to be is if those expectations are not set, people can be really unsure of what their role should entail. So we'll talk a little bit about what the best practices are there. And in terms of outcomes, there's no concrete goals that have to be met or concrete way to measure those goals either. This is really going to vary based on the relationship and the individuals who are involved. Reverse mentoring is a form of mentorship where that more experienced individual actually takes on the role of the mentee, with the younger or less experienced person providing advice on strategic and cultural relevance. This type of mentoring can be either formal or informal, but it has a number of benefits, including innovation and creativity. Because that senior leader is requesting information or serving in the mentee role here, they are able to gain exposure to new ideas, unconventional approaches, and innovative practices, which can really challenge their traditional thinking and drive organizational change. So a great opportunity to really keep up with the trends of generational changes and technological changes, which leads into that second idea of digital fluency. Younger generations are usually naturally adept to those technological changes. And so by mentoring their older colleagues or colleagues who maybe have less experience with certain technologies, they can help to enhance that digital fluency and literacy, which also can challenge organizations to adapt new technologies and be on the emerging end of the digital age. Reverse mentoring can also increase employee engagement. This is a great way for those younger employees to feel like they are actively engaged in the organization and that they can contribute meaningfully. That's sometimes really hard for someone starting a role initially, is to feel like their work matters or that the contributions they have add a lot of value to the organization. And so this is a great way to show that employee that they are valued. And in doing so, that can help to enhance employee retention. And then finally, reverse mentoring really does help to bridge those generational gaps by promoting an understanding, empathy, and appreciation in the mentor-mentee relationship while increasing collaboration. This does foster a much more inclusive environment for everyone involved. Flash mentoring is a method of mentoring that occurs without committing to a long-term relationship. These are often single sessions where you are specifically looking to learn a specific type of information or skill, and there's not a long-term commitment. Sometimes this could be project-based, wanting to learn something to help move a specific project or task forward. But this can also be a really great way to start to test out a longer-term mentor-mentee relationship without a pressure to commit. Peer mentoring is another form of mentoring, but in this particular one, there's equal power dynamics. Both individuals are usually from a similar job level or age range, which makes it a much more organic, open connection with free communication. There's no concrete mentor or mentee. Both people are really on that equal playing field. And because of this, they're able to share experiences and expertise, learn together, hold each other accountable, and talk about challenges they might be encountering. This type of mentoring can be really great as a part of a targeted program. Think things like onboarding new employees, so that when they are getting started, they can share successes and challenges throughout the onboarding process. E-mentoring is something that we've seen emerge a lot, particularly over the last few years. And again, this can be both formal or informal. It is a virtual relationship that allows mentors and mentees to connect and interact regardless of their physical location. This helps to provide a lot of flexibility, which can help to accommodate busy schedules or different time zones. So that's a fabulous way to kind of expand the reach of who might be in your network and who you can serve as a mentee or a mentor for. Because it expands the reach of programs and is not bound by location or geography, it creates that wider pool for connections. In some cases, particularly for individuals who are introverted or internal processors, e-mentoring can also really help to enhance communication. Because they're able to think through their responses a little bit more in depth, it can just create deeper reflection and meaning in terms of where they're giving their answers. And then finally, because there's no limit on who you can connect to, this really does help to increase the diversity and expertise that could be coming from that mentor pool. You're allowing people to connect from different backgrounds, cultures, industries, geographic regions, which really does provide a more global perspective if done effectively. And then finally, group and team mentoring. While the names are similar, there are some distinct differences in regards to the structure, focus, and dynamics of each of these mentoring relationships. In group mentoring, a single mentor facilitates discussion and conversation for a larger group of mentees. This type of mentoring relationship really focuses on creating a supportive and inclusive environment for group sharing. But the mentor here is serving more as that facilitator. They may still provide advice, but it's going to be to that whole group. And the purpose is really for mentees to learn from the collective wisdom of their peers and collaborate on those shared challenges, with the mentor chiming in as needed or providing advice when they feel like it's relevant. Alternatively, team mentoring has multiple mentors who are collectively bringing their expertise to multiple mentees. Because there are so many people involved in this type of mentoring relationship, it really does provide an opportunity for personalized support. There's still that group conversation that's occurring, but an individual mentor can go off with an individual mentee and say, I have expertise on this particular challenge you shared, let me give you advice. And then another mentor can share advice about another challenge that someone else might be facing. Because of this, mentees receive a lot of diverse guidance and a rich and varied experience that's tailored to their needs. So after all of that, you might be wondering which form is best. There's benefits to every type of mentoring relationship, but the primary measure of a relationship success is based on the relationship that's established between the mentor and the mentee. So there's good and bad to all of these different forms. The effective or good mentoring really does come when a relationship is built on trust, strong communication, and sharing of relevant information. In these situations, there are positive outcomes for both the mentor and the mentee. Alternatively, with ineffective or bad mentoring, it could be that the mentor and the mentee just don't click for some reason. You see this most often with those formalized programs where someone's assigned and the relationship just never really gets off the ground. There's not the trust built, communication is a little bit more challenging. For some reason, expectations are not aligned. It could also be that unhelpful information is being shared or that there's miscommunications occurring. At its core, when mentoring is ineffective, it can be destructive for the mentee or the mentor and how they proceed in their professional development. So we really want to think about what are those essential components to creating a good mentoring relationship. In order to create a good and effective mentoring relationship, you want to make sure that you are prioritizing the following things. First, confidentiality. It's crucial to maintain confidentiality of the discussions and information that's being shared. Doing so demonstrates respect for privacy, and this helps to build trust and encourages open communication. Secondly, actively listening. This seems like it should be common sense, but actively listening to each other's thoughts and concerns and goals without judgment or interruption is so vital. Showing genuine interest allows for both the mentee and the mentor to feel heard and understood. Respect is a huge piece. It's important to encourage collaborative and respectful relationships where both the mentor and the mentee have an equal voice. While the mentee is usually requesting information and the mentor is sharing, there may be moments where the mentor has something to learn from that experience as well. And so it's important to establish that in these relationships, both individuals are equal, which helps to foster a sense of partnership and teamwork. Next, transparency. Honesty and transparency really does build an environment of trust. You need to be open about what your limitations are, both as a mentor or a mentee. Share your insights and provide constructive feedback when necessary. Again, this helps to encourage that open dialogue and addresses concerns or challenges openly and honesty. Empathy is such a crucial part of mentoring relationships. Mentors really do need to demonstrate empathy by understanding and acknowledging the mentee's feelings and challenges, providing emotional support and encouragement, and showing that you genuinely care about the well-being and success of your mentee helps to establish that trust and create buy-in in the relationship. Reliability. Another one that seems like it should be common sense, but being reliable and consistent in those actions and commitments helps to foster trust. You want to make sure that you're following through on the promises that you're making on either side, the mentor or the mentee, being punctual for meetings, and consistently providing that guidance and support. Authenticity. Being authentic and genuine in interactions creates a foundation of trust. You want to make sure that you're sharing your own experiences, successes, and failures when relevant to really demonstrate that humility and vulnerability. And then finally, accountability. It's really important to foster a growth-oriented mindset in mentoring relationships because that helps to enhance professional development and success of both parties. By prioritizing each of these components, mentors and mentees are able to build that foundation of trust, which is really at the core of effective mentoring relationships. If you don't have trust, your mentoring relationship will fail before it even begins. So when we think about the role of the mentor versus the mentee, the mentor's role is really to teach, guide, and help shape the professional growth and learning of the mentee while serving as a professional role model. The way that they do this is providing information and resources. The mentor has to be able to identify and recommend the right resources and provide the right information in order to promote that professional development. This really goes back to that idea of actively listening and understanding what the mentee is looking for. By providing introductions and opportunities, you can also help to expand the mentee's network and professional development here. Secondly, the mentor should be an advisor, a champion, and an encourager. Mentors have the opportunity to teach their mentees to step outside their own comfort zone and challenge them to make mistakes. Additionally, they also need to celebrate successes of their mentee, both big and small, in order to provide that encouragement and support. Again, if we think back to trust, providing that critical constructive feedback is a lot harder if you're not celebrating the successes of the individual that you're working with as well. And then finally, a mentor really does need to be a truth sayer and a devil's advocate. You want to make sure that you're providing constructive feedback that mentees need in order to move forward and become better. If you're afraid to say anything that could be viewed as critical or that positively constructive feedback, someone is not going to have the opportunity to grow professionally. It's also really important to play devil's advocate to help a mentee think through different strategies of how they could approach certain situations, which helps them to think through those important decisions a little bit more in depth. When we think about that good mentor, they are going to be motivating, providing inspiration to the mentee. They should be empathetic and encouraging, understanding and relating to the mentee's experiences and challenges while providing support, motivation, and positive reinforcement. A mentor should be nurturing, providing that supportive environment for a mentee's progress. They should be trustworthy and devote their time. Again, building that relationship of confidentiality, knowing that what the mentee is sharing in terms of their challenges is not going to leave that setting or room, and investing their time in that relationship. The mentor also has to be open, feeling like they can share their own experiences while encouraging communication as well. And then respectful and reliable, valuing the thoughts and opinions and perspectives that others are sharing within that relationship. When we think about the mentee's role is to really seek guidance and constructive feedback on their development, following through on commitments and taking advantage of presented opportunities. They are the relationship driver. They are the one who are usually initiating and maintaining this relationship through frequent communication. Mentees are also responsible for that organization and planning. They should be taking the initiative to set these meetings and really ensure that the mentor is aware of the timeline, how frequently are they meeting, and establishing those goals. A mentee is a continuous learner. They should be enthusiastically seeking out ways to gain additional information and knowledge and really taking ownership over their own professional development. And then a receptive listener. If the mentor is taking the time to share all of this information with their mentee, the mentee should be receptive to what they're hearing, even if that comes from a different lens or perspective than they may be used to. And finally, the mentee should be an information contributor. Again, this relationship goes both ways, and so the mentee should be actively listening for challenges or ways that the mentor could benefit from the knowledge that the mentee has to share. There's 4 main stages when it comes to the mentoring relationship. The first is initiation. This is the start of the relationship. Introductions are made, expectations and boundaries are defined, and trust begins to form. This stage doesn't last terribly long, but then moves into cultivation. This is where the bulk of your mentoring relationship happens. So it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be multiple years, just depending on that duration that you set in the initiation phase. Here, the relationship grows and matures. It really does become more collaborative as you work with each other long enough, and the information that's shared should benefit both parties. As things start to come to a close, the third stage is separation. This is when those defined goals and expectations are met, and both parties really should feel satisfied in the relationship and where it has led to. Premature separation can occur if relationships just start to fall off because that time is not being invested, or if there's a mentoring relationship that just doesn't click. But both parties should be on the same page in those situations, because if one person just starts to ghost someone else, that can lead to feelings of abandonment or resentment, and it can really damage the impact of mentoring and someone's perspective of what mentoring is. And then the final stage of mentoring is redefinition. At this point, the original mentorship relationship has ended and people are redefining what that looks like. So it could be that your relationship is entirely closed, or it could be that you've decided to move into a relationship of equals where you're friends, your colleagues, something has evolved here. We're going to talk a little bit more about each of these stages and what they entail. So initiating the relationship. The first and main portion of this is identifying who could be a mentor, particularly if you're not going through a formalized program and you're taking on the initiative of finding someone through an informal relationship. You want to explore who could help you address your career goals. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. The first is go through that self-reflection. What are your goals? Where do you want to develop? What do you want to accomplish personally and professionally? And who can help you get there? Once you've done that, you can think a little bit about who's in your current network. Do you know someone already that you could ask to be a mentor? If you're not sure, you could also utilize professional organizations and those more formal mentorship programs. So looking into what else exists out there and can one of those programs help me reach my goal? You could also leverage alumni networks to facilitate new connections. And then finally, as you're finding individuals who could be good to connect with and reach out to, you want to make sure that you're assessing your shared values and whether you would be a compatible match. Is this person going to be able to give you the information that you need? Do you feel like you could have those really open and honest and sometimes really hard conversations with someone? Or does something just feel off? That's really important to consider. One resource that I did want to share as an opportunity to leverage that alumni network a little bit is Husker Connect. So this is great for University of Nebraska-Lincoln, particularly alums who are wanting to give back, but any employer, partner, professional can join Husker Connect and serve as a mentor to our University of Nebraska-Lincoln students. Students are usually the ones who are initiating this relationship, going in and doing outreach. So being clear on your profile about what you can offer to them can be a really great resource. You are, as a alumni or professional contact, also able to find yourself a mentor by connecting with other alums and professionals. So a really great tool that taps into that alumni network. LinkedIn is another great one as well. When asking someone to be your mentor, a couple of things to keep in mind. It's really important to communicate what you respect about that person and why you want them to be your mentor. Being sincere here goes a really long way to help them understand the value that they can add to that relationship. When you share how their mentorship can help you grow, someone buys into that conversation a little bit more upfront than if they have to connect the dots. So I don't feel like I have a lot I can share or a lot that you can learn from me. You're doing the legwork of sharing that with them. And then it's really important to make sure that you're actually asking the question directly. It can feel awkward to say, will you be my mentor? But if you're not setting the expectation of this is what I'm hoping to gain from this relationship, it can lead to some miscommunications down the road. We don't want to, though, ask that relationship the very first moment that you meet someone. So you reach out on LinkedIn, Husker Connect, or you meet someone for the first time. You don't want to start that conversation with, it's so nice to meet you. Will you be my mentor? There's no foundation of trust or relationship that's been built there. It's okay to ask that question if you're doing an informational interview and you've started to have some of those more frank conversations where someone is sharing information and you've gotten a pulse of, I think this would be a compatible relationship, but don't do it on the onset of meeting someone. You also shouldn't expect a yes or take it personally if someone says no. There are a number of reasons why someone may not say yes to a mentoring relationship. Mentoring can take a lot of time. And so recognizing that other people have commitments going on and that it could have nothing to do with you, but just where they're at in their own journey can be really important. And then don't expect immediate results. Again, mentoring takes time, and effective mentoring, building that relationship, coming to a point where people are willing to be really vulnerable and authentic, develops over multiple months. And so this is important to recognize as you're setting goals and thinking about what you want to achieve. Next, when we initiate that relationship, we want to define the relationship. With this, it's really important to set goals for yourself, that relationship, and define what outcomes you hope to achieve. You also should be determining how frequently you hope to meet. And obviously here, things can change and evolve as life occurs, but having a set expectation does allow that to get on calendars and make sure that both parties understand what the commitment looks like at the onset. And then 2, determining what does that relationship duration look like? How long will that official mentoring last? If this is a formalized program, it's probably already set for you, but in a more informal relationship, you might say, let's try this out for 6 months or a year, and then we can revisit to determine if we're meeting our goals or if we need to reevaluate how frequently we're meeting. So again, everyone has an expectation set for the time commitment. Discussing boundaries is also a really important part of this stage to respect people's time and privacy. If there's certain information that you know as a mentor that you can't share, that is really important to address up front. Or if you feel like you're less of an expert in a certain area that someone shares they want to gain experience, telling them, I'm not going to be the best person to help with that, but I can introduce you to someone. Or just recognizing, like, we can cover the other parts of your goals, but that particular one, I don't feel like I can provide as much support or guidance on. And then finally, starting to build that foundation of rapport and trust. This takes the longest, but as we've talked about, there's a number of ways that you can do that through those initial conversations. Secondly, is cultivating the relationship. Cultivating the relationship is really a responsibility of both parties, but the mentor does have the biggest impact in making the relationship feel valuable to the mentee. So mentors can help to cultivate that relationship when they create a safe and supportive environment. This allows open and honest dialogue to occur. Mentors also create this when they provide guidance and feedback. They need to listen to the challenges that are being expressed by the mentee, and then think about what is that relevant advice and strategies that they can share to move that relationship forward. Mentors should also be encouraging self-reflection. This starts to tap into a little bit of coaching, but talk about the strengths, weaknesses, and challenges that your mentee has so that they become more self-aware and can then be challenged to overcome those in other ways through the resources that you're providing to them. And then it's really important that a mentor fosters independence. We'll talk about challenges later, but one of the challenges that can occur in mentoring relationships is overdependence on the mentor. And so by fostering independence and helping the mentee recognize that they are empowered to make decisions and take ownership, and that they can learn from their mistakes, and that's a very human thing, it really does empower them to know when they can move forward themselves. And finally, Mentors, really the key of this relationship is asking those powerful questions. There's a number of different questions that can kind of come into play here. So from a mentee perspective, you're going to be asking questions of that mentor to help understand what advice or guidance you're looking for. That could be things that are career or industry focused. It could be professional development focused. It could be based on workplace dynamics. So feel free to kind of skim through these questions and think if there's any that resonate with you. But mentors or mentees, could also ask questions that are focused on skill development or goal setting or just general advice about life or career. Again, this is very adaptable and can be tailored based on the needs of your own unique mentoring relationship. When we think about questions that mentors can ask their mentees, they might be asking about that personal or professional background, career exploration and goals, and their educational journey. This is really geared from that student perspective, but can be tailored as well to that professional lens. What are things that you enjoy about your current job? What challenges are you facing today? And it can continue to evolve from there. Keeping these open-ended is super important. And then finally, when we think about some of those reverse mentoring questions to add value to both parties in that relationship, it's okay to ask questions about technology and innovation, diversity and inclusion, and some of those industry and market insights. The third stage is separating the relationship. There's 4 primary reasons that a mentoring relationship may separate. The first is it comes to a natural conclusion. Here, the mentee achieves their goals or the agreed upon end date arrives. It is just natural. There's no hurt feelings in this. The second, situational changes. Life happens. One or both parties could experience a significant shift in their priorities. Maybe someone starts a new job or gets married, has a baby, something happens. And so the time commitment is no longer able to be there. As long as this is communicated effectively and the person who's being impacted understands that no one is at fault in this situation, there are usually not hurt feelings here. When we start to have hurt feelings are things like lack of commitment. If there's a failure to follow through on the expectations, or if someone is unable to provide the level of support needed, that can cause a relationship to separate. And sometimes this could be a mentor or a mentee just ghosting the other individual. And sometimes it could be that self-realization of this is happening, let's have a conversation and choose to mutually separate the relationship. And then it could be that there's mismatch. It could be in expectations or it could be in personality or power dynamics. So if there's disparities about the scope, the depth, or the purpose of the relationship, that's usually a sign that the relationship should come to a close and be reevaluated. As mentoring relationships separate, it's important to determine and define if and how mentorship will continue by redefining the relationship. Again, there's 4 primary ways that this can be done. The first, complete closure. The relationship just fully ends. No further communication is required. It could be that there was that natural conclusion, the formalized relationship ended, goals were met, but you decide not to continue that relationship for whatever reason. The second is you decide to continue the match. Here, it is perfectly appropriate in either a formal or an informal situation to say, you've met your goal, I'm so excited for you. What else can we do? How can we continue this relationship? And if it's determined that there's still guidance that can be provided by that mentor, you might choose to redefine goals and start back at that initiation stage where you're more clearly outlining what you're expecting from this phase of that relationship. Third, you might decide to just transition that relationship. As relationship dynamics start to evolve, it's important to consider, is this still a mentoring relationship, or has this become a relationship of colleagues, friendship? Is it something else? Because you don't want to end up with that mentorship dynamic that can impact a true friendship or a friendship of colleagues. And then finally, in those situations like a formal mentoring program, or when your goals have been met and you know that you still personally have something that you can share with others, or that you have something you can gain, you may choose to go back through a matching process formally, or to find a new mentor or mentee in order to pursue or provide guidance on new goals. A couple of the challenges that evolve or emerge in mentoring relationships that I wanted to talk just briefly about are time constraints. I mentioned this earlier, but life happens and people do recognize this. So it's really important, if time constraints become an issue, to effectively communicate how much time you can dedicate to the relationship and then follow through on that commitment. If things do happen and you need to redefine how often you can meet, that's okay. But communication, as with everything, is key. Unrealistic expectations. It's very possible that either the mentee or the mentor could have unrealistic expectations of what that relationship could or should entail. And so it's really important to focus on clearly defining those goals during the initiation phase to make sure everyone's on the same page. Poor communication is always a challenge in mentoring relationships, particularly if people maybe are matched or partnered with someone who has a different communication or learning style than their own. So recognizing that you may need to adapt how you personally communicate, how you learn, or how conversations about what that looks like in order to make both parties happy. And then here too, really making sure that you're balancing the ratio of listening versus speaking. Communication, mentoring is all about really listening and understanding the needs of others. I did mention briefly that idea of overdependence as well. So mentors should make sure to challenge their mentees to do the heavy lifting in that relationship, remembering that their role as a mentor is just to provide support. They don't always have the right answer. They just have one piece of advice or one perspective, and there could be multiple ways to approach a challenge or problem. It's also very possible that a mentee could receive conflicting advice. Sometimes an individual might have multiple mentors or multiple trusted individuals that they're going to with a similar challenge. And so for mentees in particular, it's really important to remember that mentors just provide one perspective and that there could be multiple correct approaches. And so even if this advice that you're given doesn't align with what you personally feel or your perspective, you're able to leverage your network and others in order to make some of those informed decisions on the best way to proceed. And then finally, power dynamics. This could be a power dynamic in terms of a mentor with an inflated ego who does think that they have all the right answers. It could be a power dynamic in terms of status at an organization. It could be gender dynamics. There's so many things that can come into play here. But with this, we want to be really cautious that both the mentor and the mentee have each other's best intentions at heart. If there's any thought that there could be manipulation or that someone is being underhanded in this relationship, that would be a sign to start that separation because of a mismatch, and then find someone who really does have that trust and best intention at heart instead. So a few of the best practices before we get to questions. The things I want you to keep in mind and take away from this are that the best mentorship pairings are found organically and often include similar interests, self-motivation, good communication, supportiveness, enthusiasm, and flexibility. Spend more time listening than talking, particularly as you're developing that relationship. And then remember that positive relationships are built on honesty, mutual trust, respect, and open communication. And most importantly, every relationship is different, particularly if you're participating in a formalized program where you're maybe hearing about the successes or challenges of other mentoring relationships, or hearing from friends who are taking part in an informal relationship what theirs looks like. Don't judge yours based on the success of someone else. Do what works best for your individual pairing based on the goals and expectations that have been established for you. At this time, if anyone has questions, I am happy to address those.
Thank you, Paula, for just such a thorough overview. I know we had one question, just wondering if we can make slides available. All those questions you had on there, very useful.
Yes, I have your email, Amanda, so I'll make sure to send a PDF copy of the slide.
That would be terrific. We will also have a recording that once I have a chance to upload this, I will make available to the group so you can share it with others who may find it useful as well. If anyone has any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A or raise your hand and I can allow you to speak. No, Paula, you covered so many bases. I'm like, wow, this is great information. Up here's a question. Any recommendations for PKIs for a formal mentorship program?
Oh, that's a really great question. And honestly, so situational, I think, depending on the organization that you're a part of. So I think that would be maybe a one-on-one conversation. And I'm happy to share with the slides my email address so people can reach out directly as well.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Otherwise, thank you very much, Paula. And like she said, we will be sharing her contact information if you have more specific questions you'd like to share with her. But thank you, Paula, for this wonderful presentation. And thank you to everyone who was able to join us here live. Keep an eye on your email for that update, as well as for updates about future events hosted by Nebraska Women in STEM. You can also follow us on social media for that. We'll be having more professional development opportunities coming up, and of course, our next conference in April of 2024. With that, take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks all.